Imagine buying a new Chevy in 1971 and the air vents won't stop blowing. Like ever. Engine off? Still blowing. Parked in your driveway? Still blowing. Winter in Minnesota? You guessed it, still blowing cold air right in your face. And the best part? GM told you this was a feature, not a bug. A feature. 1971 was a weird year for GM. They dropped some cool stuff. The Vega, new full-size models, fancy coupes. The Chevelle was still killing it. The Camaro looked mean. But they also rolled out one of the most baffling ideas in automotive history, the flow-through ventilation system. Or, as owners called it, why is my car trying to freeze me to death? See, the concept wasn't totally insane. Cars needed better airflow. Before this, you'd crack a window or turn on the blower. Simple. Worked fine. Nobody was complaining. But GM looked at that and said, nah, let's reinvent the wheel. Let's make it futuristic. Because if there's one thing the early 70s loved, it's making stuff unnecessarily complicated. So here's what they were going for. GM wanted fresh air constantly flowing through the cabin. No stale air, no need to mess with controls, no windows cracked open like some peasant from the 60s. Just pure, non-stop ventilation. All the time. Every second you're in the car. Sounds kind of nice, right? Like who doesn't want fresh air? They designed it so air would enter through vents in the cowl, near the windshield, that little gap at the base of the windshield where leaves always get stuck. Air would flow through the cabin, past your face, past your legs, and then exit through vents in the trunk or rear quarter panels. Always moving, always fresh. The future of comfort, they said in the brochures. Astroventilation on some models. Flow-through ventilation on others. Fancy names for a system that was about to make people miserable. At first, engineers probably high-fived each other. This was innovation, baby. This was progress. No more stuffy cabins. No more rolling down windows on the highway. Just pure, non-stop ventilation. And then winter hit, and people lost their minds. Here's the thing they didn't think through. You couldn't turn it off. No joke, the system was always on, always pulling in outside air. There was no switch, no damper, no, hey, maybe I don't want air blowing on me right now option. And if it was 20 degrees outside, congrats, you just bought a $3,500 rolling freezer. People in cold climates were losing their minds. You'd start the car on a freezing January morning, cramp the heater all the way up, wait for it to warm up, and still feel a cold draft blasting your ankles. Because the vents were designed to keep pulling in fresh air from outside. The heater was working, it was doing its job, but it was fighting a losing battle against a system that wouldn't quit. It's like trying to heat your house with all the windows open. Technically possible, incredibly stupid. And it wasn't just cold air. In the summer, if you were parked in the sun, the system would suck in hot air. Scalding, humid, miserable hot air. So your AC was working overtime, burning extra gas, making extra noise, just to keep up with the fresh air pouring in from outside. Genius move, right? Let's make the AC fight itself. Owners were not happy. Dealerships got flooded with complaints within the first months. My car won't stop blowing air. I'm freezing in my own Impala. Why can't I just turn this thing off? Is this a joke? And service guys didn't know what to tell them because, technically, the system was working as designed. It was doing exactly what GM engineered it to do. The problem was that what GM engineered it to do was annoying as hell. Some people tried to block the vents themselves. Tape, foam, cardboard, whatever they could find at the hardware store. Just shove it in there and hope for the best. But here's the thing. The system wasn't designed to be blocked. So you'd mess with airflow, and sometimes that caused other issues. Weird whistling noises, pressure buildup. In some cases, it'd make the doors harder to close because the cabin pressure was all screwed up. Ugh. GM's response to all the complaints? Basically, it's supposed to do that. It's fresh air. You're welcome. Which, sure, technically true. But when you're driving through a North Dakota blizzard and your toes are going numb, fresh air isn't exactly a selling point. Nobody's sitting there going, man, I'm freezing, but at least this air is fresh. Now, here's where it gets even dumber. GM wasn't even the first company to try flow-through ventilation. Ford had a system called ventilation. Creative name, I know. Chrysler had fresh air ventilation. Both worked on the same basic principle. Air in, air out, keep things moving. But here's the difference. They had dampers, little flaps you could close to stop the air when you didn't want it. Revolutionary concept, right? Being able to control the air in your own car. GM looked at what Ford and Chrysler were doing. They saw the dampers. They saw people actually liked having control, and they went, "Nah, we don't need that. Our customers will love constant airflow. Trust us." I mean, who signed off on this? Who sat in the meeting and said, "Yeah, let's skip the shutoff valve. That's for quitters." It's like designing a radio that only plays one station. Sure, it's simple, but nobody wants it. So what happened? Well, pretty quickly, GM realized they messed up. Big time. By late 1971, they started offering retrofit kits at dealerships. Basically, little dampers you could install to block the airflow, which, is what they should have included from the factory. But hey, at least they were trying to fix it. Some owners paid for the kits, others just kept using tape and cardboard. A few people said screw it and traded the car in for something that didn't torture them. By 1972, GM quietly started adding controls to the system. Dampers, shutoff valves, things that let you actually stop the air. Like a normal car, like what Ford and Chrysler were doing all the time. They didn't make a big announcement about it, no press release saying, "Oops, our bad," no apology ads in car magazines. They just fixed it. Tweaked the design, added the controls, and hoped people would forget about 1971. But the damage was done. The 1971 models became infamous. Car magazines made jokes about it, owners complained to their friends, and if you bought one, you either lived with it or you got real creative with duct tape and cardboard.
There are stories of people in Alaska literally stuffing blankets into the vents just to survive the drive to work. In Alaska, where you'd think fresh air would be the least of your problems. Now, to be fair to GM, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the idea wasn't completely brain dead. Better airflow is a good thing. Stuffy cabins are annoying, and in moderate climates, the system probably worked fine. If you lived in Southern California, you might not have even noticed. But that's the thing about cars. You can't design them for one climate. You can't assume everyone lives where it's 72 degrees and sunny. Some people drive in snow. Some people drive in deserts. Some people live in places where the temperature swings 50 degrees between morning and night. And when you make a system that never turns off, you're basically telling those people, good luck, figure it out yourself. Which, honestly, is kind of what happened. So yeah, GM killed the always-on ventilation after 1 year. Well, technically they improved it, but let's be honest, they killed it. Probably after a few thousand angry letters and some very uncomfortable meetings with dealership owners. But hey, if you ever see a 1971 Chevy or Pontiac with those little vents in the trunk or rear quarter panels, you're looking at one of the funniest mistakes in GM history. A rolling reminder that sometimes the old way of doing things was fine. You didn't need to fix it. And honestly, I kind of respect the commitment. They stuck with a bad idea just long enough for everyone to realize it was bad. That takes guts. Or maybe just stubbornness. Or maybe they really thought people would get used to it. Spoiler, they didn't. All right, your turn. If you had to drive a car with one terrible feature for a year, what are you picking? The always-on air vents? The Ford Pinto's exploding gas tank? The Chevette's everything? Drop your pick in the comments. I'm curious what kind of pain you'd choose. And if you love weird automotive disasters like this, stick around. We've got plenty more coming. Trust me, the 70s were an absolute goldmine of bad decisions. See you in the next one.